So welcome everybody. We are going to start with Philip from AAZZUR.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I really want to start with a simple story that Martin and I, we've known each other for many years, and we've been in banking for a very long time. And we went on a mission to think about what would banking look like in about 5 or 10 years' time. And we are both convinced that there is a lot of value in the transactional data of the bank's customer that currently isn't being used. And so we set up AAZZUR to go on a journey to help banks and challenger banks to really look at that data to help their customers and to monetize their customers better. So on a very simple basis, what we do is in the banking app that you already have, we will work with the bank to look at the transactional data. And based on that, we might make some product recommendations, or we might give the customer some nudging information, or just some information in general that then brings you to a product that then you can purchase. And with that technology, your banking app becomes, again, basically the central hub of your financial life. And now the question is, who are these customers? Well, they are either incumbent banks who connect to our platform to analyze this data and therefore then make these recommendations and product purchases. But also quite often, I talk to a challenger bank about once a week, we help them build the banks that actually promote third-party products within the ecosystem. This is called embedded financial services, and it is estimated to double the size of the banking space in general. The platform that we have is ideally situated so that you could either help a bank or build a new one. We have accounts, cards, we have insurance products, CO2 compensations, all the different financial products connected, and you could build a bank with that, and we do that. The other thing which the banks are really interested in is that actually want to have their app just the same, but they would like to use the third-party lead generation and monetization engine, where we look at the transactions, we figure out what desire is being indicated, and match that with the different products. From a technical perspective, we are integrated with a number of different open banking, API banking providers, as you can see here, and our platform basically manages the information flow and manages the information to the front end. We do have a white label product there to demo it and also to sell it, but usually this happens in a bespoke app or in the banking app itself. Our traction is considerable. We started 3 years ago. We've been to 4 accelerators, Techstars, Plug and Play, F10. We have partnerships with TransferWise, Rails Bank Assurance, and we have started selling this technology about a year ago. We have now 3 signed clients. We've had LOIs and been in the final freeze several times and had 2 paid POCs and pilots with Alior Bank and PZU. We're well on our way and are currently working through a pipeline of 26 projects, and fingers crossed, I think I'm going to hear back a positive result about one of our potential clients tomorrow. This is us. We work like this, and we're coming from banking, and we're coming from programming, and really have an insight into this. We're a team of 11 people, and are now looking for 500,000 euros. This month, we have closed a 400,000 Swiss franc raise, to which there's a headroom amount of 500,000 K, which we are going to use to close additional clients and get a real big bank on board. So I'll leave you with a question. You know, search is being monetized, social media is being monetized, and who will help the banks monetize the bank transactions? Thank you very much.
And turn your cameras and audio on, and we'd love to hear any feedback or advice or investor questions for Philip.
Sure. Great presentation, Philip. I've seen you present before with Angel's Den. So, what's your revenue model?
So our revenue model is transactional as well as banking as a service. So the different partners that are connected, there is a platform fee, which is a monthly fee. There's a per user fee. And where we see the huge value driver is for all of the connected financial products where a commission can be earned, like giving somebody a life, say a risk insurance or travel insurance or some wealth products. We take half of the commission and share the rest with the bank.
Okay, fabulous. And I'll shut up in a moment, but what's your spend of the 500, well, the 800K that you're raising, and you've got 400 in the bank?
So we, at the beginning of COVID, we decided not to close the angel round, which is now oversubscribed. And the last people to enter that round is F10, which is a Swiss institutional investor. And what we're using it for is to further, of course, the development of the platform, but mostly it goes into sales and giving it runway, because this is a kind of a platform play where the more people you have connected, the more network effects happen. And this is going to be the end of, so this is to come in now as the last opportunity for this round. And then we're going to get ready for Series A towards the end of next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Philip, how are you doing with the regulatory side? GPDR and things like that, because you know, bank transactions are your life, right? How are you going to handle that?
Yeah, that's a very good point, a very good question. So on GDPR, it's relatively easy because we were actually launched after those rules came into regulation. So our platform is very much geared towards GDPR rules from a technological side. From a bank secrecy side, that's a different part where we basically have to get into a relationship where we become a provider to the bank. So we are falling under the bank licenses legal umbrella. This is the same thing that IBM does, and you know, all of the other large suppliers, Finastra, to the banks that handle data. We will be under the bank's umbrella. We have to follow their rules and guidelines, but the bank is very much allowed to look into bank transactions as it does on a daily basis, just for fraud reasons alone. It's just not very good yet at taking that data and making a sales out of it, or even just better customer care. This doesn't have to be just monetization, but you could think about, for example, I got married last year. Nobody came to me with any kind of advice in my finances. Do you want a joint account? Do you want some insurance? Like, there's things that I would have wanted that the bank didn't pick up on, and we can tell when somebody gets married from the transactional data alone.
So maybe the next from me, I took a look at your presentation that was shared with us before the event, and what caught my attention was the financial model. You have quite high direct costs as for a software company. Why is that? What is included in those costs?
So a bunch of these, I would say, are pass-through costs. At the moment, we ask our customers, let's say the challenger banks, to get into direct relationship with, let's say, a supplier like Railsbank. But in the future, we want to actually have, sell those directly. So you don't have to go to 5 suppliers, but you could just go to AAZZUR. And that means all the costs from Railsbank, from TransferWise, from Bsurance, and all of those will hit us first, and then we'll earn a margin on them. But they are pass-through costs to us. At the moment, that's not the case because we don't want to spend so much on legal fees, but that would be end state.
Okay, so I think the last question will come from me. Thank you, Philip, for the presentation. And can you talk a bit about the competition?
So the biggest competition would, from a bank's perspective, would be to do it yourself. But that's, in a sense, I would say half of the banks will not let us touch the front end or their data at all. The other half of the banks need help, and we've talked to
30 seconds in overtime.
The answer to that is it depends. They could do it yourself. There are companies like Bud. There are companies like Finastra or other ones that are working towards this. Meniga is another one, Personetics is another one. But what makes us different than all of those is that most of these either analyze a transaction, provide a message, but we actually provide the connection to actually sell that product as well. So there is competition, but to be honest with you, if you want to pay 10 or 100 times more, that's where you'd go.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause from the audience for Philip. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I cut him off as he was saying thank you. Well, we heard half of your thank you. No, you did a great job. I'm bringing Nur on now from DocNoc.
Good evening. So I'm presenting to you DocNoc, and I would like you to pay attention to the words there, second opinion and clinical decision. And because clinical decision for a second opinion involves not only one consultant, it would involve a specialist nurse and mental health specialist. And sometimes involves more than an oncologist. It could be a pathologist, a radiologist. Breast cancer is one of the cancers that involves imaging and other tests involved. So this is our DocNoc team, our dream team, myself on the left, and the mission. That's actually 20 years ago. I had this vision where technology could improve our not only diagnosis, treatment, efficiency, effectiveness, and that's how I discontinued clinical training and then embarked on bioinformatics and MBA afterwards. And now working with Dr. Ali Joma in the past 3 years, we established our understanding of digital health market and how to be competitive. Being joined by our team, a new member, AI engineer, a PhD final student, Austin, and other member of the team, Ayman and I, we worked actually in the private health sector, even and Dr. Ali. That's how we build our knowledge and insight, and how medical multidisciplinary team review is mandatory now for cancer patients, and not only in the UK, but abroad. And misdiagnosis, errors in medicine impact these major areas: cancer, vascular infection, and it's a huge impact on the population that, for example, the USA, where we have data, 5% of population impacted annually, despite the fact that a mature, advanced healthcare system. We can just imagine what impacts on other healthcare systems due to misdiagnosis. In the UK, now being impacted by COVID, that's resulted in a loss of all these medical tourists that come to the UK, not only for treatment, but consultation too. And the reason we focus on women and breast cancer, because they are the biggest among cancers, and women more misdiagnosed. And breast cancer actually affects women too. And here I want you to see the fact that this tool that we are advocating and presenting to you has been already designed by NHS, but the fact that we don't know how long will it last, and it's free, and is not being provided for commercialized in a way that we want to do. And the fact that telemedicine increased due to COVID is just showing the trend and the opportunity for this technology to help more people. The way we do it will be nurse-led, unlike our competitors. So the nurse will be allocated for the patient to speak the same language, acquire the data, the health data. The data will be extracted automatically through our third-party provider and provided with a written report, or they could be booked with a consultant for a video consultation or multidisciplinary team. The video will be transcribed and the reports will be evaluated. We can even evaluate the outcome, because we want not only help patients, we want to raise the standards of secondary care worldwide. Reduce the
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Correct. But you're welcome to go later. It just eats into your feedback time.
I see. Thank you. So we want to expand other specialties, basically, these slides. And these figures we can delve into later, but the impact is huge on the economy, on the patients, people's lives we could impact on, where they help them finding the personalized treatment due to the advances in medicine and diagnosis. We identify this is very clear that how our USP is unique in the fact that it will be nurse-led. The health data can help patients in underutilized data in the low and middle income countries, emerging markets from India and Pakistan, how can be enrolled into clinical trials, expanding our knowledge and understanding more how we can personalize medicine. Our journey so far, I hope that we don't have you have the slide before, so you understand where we're going where we're going and where we came from. Our challenges are identified in the next year, and this is exciting bit that we had the backing of a technical co-founder, which means not only they provide technical development, but they will be supporting us as a co-founder with their connections, with their investor network, with their advisors all around the world, as the figures shown here. I started already doing the consultation through social media on free basis and see the impact, surveying the people from Facebook or from our community with the help of Iraqi consultant here in the UK. And that's how our ask is we are halfway through, but if we collect 150K, that will take us a long way.
You're 2 minutes over your time, just so you know. You only have 3 minutes left of feedback. You can keep going.
Thank you very much.
I just want you to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just go ahead and jump in.
Right.
3 minutes left.
Immediate feedback. Some immediate feedback. I believe what you're doing is really interesting, but the slides, far too many slides, you overran, and far too much information on the slides. So I still don't know really what it is you're doing, and I won't have enough time to ask questions. So practice the pitch and cut half the slides, cut 3/4 of the content from every slide. You can send what you have, though, to anybody who's interested subsequently, and they will then be able to read it on a full-size screen. We have about 1/4 of our screen to see your slides because of the way the technology works. So top-level feedback, but I do believe what you're doing, and I think your elevator pitch was really confusing. Your vision and say AI-enabled. People will get what you're doing. And you don't need to talk about multilingual. If somebody asks a question, great. So would anybody else like to contribute?
I agree with you, Colin. I actually didn't get if you already have a product market fit, if you already have a prototype, an MVP. I think it's a bit confusing on that. But the idea is great. If you manage to make it, and actually on another point, what you're asking is actually not much money. It's actually very small amount, and the valuation is okay, even for Brazilian standards, right? So it's not too high valuation on the company. So it actually looks a good thing to invest from an investor point of view. But it's difficult for me to understand if you already have a product market fit or if you're just doing a prototype, if it requires a little bit more on how things are going.
I agree with what was said before, but still I would add to this pitch deck more information about the traction, because I have no idea where are you today in the terms of product development or market development. And I wonder about one thing, because you showed us in the presentation that it took you 4 years to change the either business model or the idea of the product. So I wonder why it took 4 years. It's quite long.
Okay, I'd like to hear more from the other panelists. And
you can answer her question if you want, or you can just log the question. I can give you an extra 30 seconds to answer if you're wanting to answer.
Well, I think it's a long answer. I won't be able to really.
Okay. Semiramis, did you have any feedback in the 30 seconds we have left?
No, I don't want to like duplicate the comments. So
Sure.
I think it would be much easier for you to just simplify the slides and just reduce it to like 15 slides.
Super. Yeah, I understand. Thank you very much for your feedback, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on there. I appreciate it. Mike, I'm pulling you on now. And please, a round of applause from everyone for Nur in the chat and manually.
Great, thank you. Thank you everyone for your time this evening. I'm going to talk to you about Lucidity, which is the world's #1 strategy platform. There's a big problem in business, which is companies find strategy a challenge. We spoke to hundreds of businesses and over 65% cited a lack of understanding or expertise as barriers to developing a growth strategy. This leads on to larger problems. Over a third of managers don't know their own company strategy, and it's becoming really complicated to run a business well. Data's stored all over the place, different managers using different systems, all while there's massive change externally impacting companies. Lucidity solves that problem. We're a software platform used by companies to understand and analyze their market, formulate and execute a strategy, align to and focus on goals, and monitor progress against KPIs. Touching on it in a bit more detail, our platform has 4 parts: a business toolkit composed of academic and commercial tools to provoke strategic thinking, a system that will walk you through building strategic plans, a goal and task management area to execute those plans, and dashboard and reporting suite to enable monitoring of your progress. The opportunity is huge. 1.9 billion was spent in 2019 on software around planning. Consulting took 31 billion, management consulting took 250 billion, and all 3 are projected to grow globally. Our focus is on English-speaking markets, looking at companies up to 500 employees direct, while we've got discussions with channel partners ongoing at the moment for the DACH region and South Africa. We map the landscape using this chart. The x-axis is difficult to incomplete through to easy and executable. The y-axis is affordable to expensive. Top left, if you're wanting to develop a strategy, we see books, training, difficult but cheap, MBAs, bottom left, difficult but expensive, consultants, expensive, easy but difficult to effectively implement, and we occupy the top right, affordable and easy to execute. We've got a fantastic team with loads of experience. My co-founder, Tom, has worked in tech for many years. He's won multiple awards and has grown a previous SaaS business to over 10 million. I spent 15 years in tech and product. I lived in New York for the last 3, growing a SaaS business until it was acquired. And I've got a master's in AI and an MBA. Tom and I have worked together for over a decade, and previously we've taken the business into 14 different languages across 11 countries. We're supported by a really strong team who are excellent in their own discipline as well. And they've all worked with us in the past in some form. We've also got a great advisory board composed of academics in this space and different commercial leaders from large businesses out there as well. In terms of numbers, we're looking to generate 15 million in revenue by 2025 with an EBITDA of 9.9. Our current traction has generated over 600 engaged leads. We've got around 180 potential partners and a pipeline value of 2.5 million currently in place. We're currently seeking 500,000 for 10% of the business. Current investors include people like Duncan Bailey, the ex-MD of Lloyd's, and the usage for this funding is 10% working capital, 40% marketing for wider reach. I'll end with a quick example. We spoke to one of our clients and we asked them for their current strategy. They pulled out this rather crumpled bit of paper. After using Lucidity for a couple of months, they're really happy, engaged, and they're executing effectively their strategic plan. So in summary, we're developing our product rapidly. We're looking to disrupt the strategy marketplace, and we would love you to join us. So thank you very much. I hope I'm bang on time. Any questions?
judges go ahead and jump in, and let's engage. Thank you.
Well, fantastic presentation. I know exactly what you do. You finished ahead of time. You also told us what your ask was and what the valuation was, which is really brave of you, and also how you're going to market. Fabulous. And a great explanation of the team. Fabulous. What's the current traction?
Great.
Number of users, current revenue?
So we have been in beta. We're due to end beta probably December. We have about 150 on the platform actively using it. And our pricing model is based on per user. Minimum, we've got different tiers. I mean, no surprise, we're a SaaS business. We've got 3 tiers, and we try to get people on the middle tier. Our tiers are £50 a month, £75 a month, and £100 a month is the starting price. And then depending on how many users, it increases from that point.
Right. Okay.
We're, the main sort of, well, I won't go into more detail, but we've won our proper launch in December with new aspects of the product, and then we're going to go for it.
Immediate feedback, then I'll shut up. You're quite expensive for your current revenue. In fact, I would say you're very expensive for your current revenue.
We're currently successfully raising at that valuation.
Well done. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, my comment was going to be on the valuation. It's way ahead for a pre-revenue kind of company, right? The other point that I think it's interesting, if I understood correctly, it's the software that you're going to use not on a daily basis, if I understood correctly, apart from the KPI monitoring, because you don't review your strategy every day. You review a strategy, particularly large companies, review it annual basis to 2 years, 3 years. You do a strategic plan, and perhaps I don't know if a company would pay for a piece of software that's not going to be used only every 3 years, and for monitoring results, which you can do with other softwares. How you see that in terms of competition?
Great question, and with all of these questions, I long for kind of a lot of extra time to answer. But I guess I'd make 2 points in response. The first point is, fundamentally, we don't see strategy as something that should be done every 3 years. It should be kind of embedded in the culture of the business and be something that you drive the business on a much regular basis. But the second kind of more practical answer is that our system does have the formulation of strategy and the top level vision and AI around what sector you're in and what you need to do. But then it also has the kind of business as usual, day-to-day operational side about monitoring, execution. And what we see in terms of the usage profile is the tools to formulate are used, once every couple of months. The stuff that kind of sits in the middle is used on a kind of weekly basis. The stuff that's used in the execution at the other end of the spectrum is used on a daily basis. So we really are passionate about taking that top level vision and breaking it all the way down into the execution tools. I'd love to talk in more detail about that and show some examples, but I'm obviously also conscious of time.
Thank you very much, Mike. It was a very nice presentation. I really liked it. I think that there are two things that might be improved. First of all, I have no idea what is your customer segmentation, if you are targeting smaller organizations or rather big ones. So this is something that I think might be added to this presentation. And the second thing, at the very beginning, you said that this is #1 platform for strategy. However, through the whole pitch deck, I didn't have enough data that will confirm that. So either your traction or some more detailed market comparison with your competitors, the direct ones, because you put there the landscape. However, it would be worth to add also some detailed competitors, direct competitors analysis.
Understood. Thank you. Great feedback. Appreciate it.
And also to top of that,
I'm assuming that have questions. So, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was taking that as feedback and saying thank you rather than taking them as questions to answer. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Okay, so just to top that, I was just looking through your competition chart, and I think it's better to add some software companies that track KPIs and OKRs, because there are many successful companies that do that. So it's better to compare yourself to another software company rather than McKinsey or a consultant. Just
Yeah.
feedback.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, the time just ran out. Please give a warm round of applause to Mike. We really appreciate it
And
from
thanks, Andrew, for organising.
Lucidity.
Appreciate it.
Cheers. Next, I'm going to bring on Jamie from DecodeXP.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jamie Pollard-Jones, the founder and managing director of DecodeXP, and we're a company aiming to disrupt the outdated team building industry in the post-COVID environment by focusing on allowing individuals to understand themselves better, how their behavior impacts on their colleagues, and how their colleagues impact on them. For us, it's time to understand the I in teams. COVID has changed the way in which teams operate. Organizations are faced with a blended workforce, with people working from home, in the office, and on site. And the prevailing view is that this is unlikely to change back to pre-pandemic norms. Business leaders now need to focus on team working rather than team building so they can achieve better outcomes. Simply relying on PowerPoint-based workshops, beanbag throwing, marshmallow towers, or expensive social events is no longer tenable, and more experiential offerings lack application in the wider working environment. DecodeXP specializes in empowering the individual so that they are effective within any team construct by helping them understand their own behavioral traits and how they work in conjunction with the behavioral traits of their colleagues. To achieve this, we have developed the Adaptive Team Decoder. The program works in 3 stages. We use a UCL-endorsed DISC model of behavior, a series of questions answered by an individual that develops a robust behavioral profile. These are then used in conjunction with a fully immersive and fun problem-solving experience designed to elicit these specific behavioral outcomes. This data, captured live and with audio-visual technology, is then analyzed by the DecodeXP team, and once the experience is complete, a full after-action review is undertaken. Participants leave the process having developed a deep understanding of strengths, weaknesses, and how these can be optimized to produce improved team performance outcomes. The delivery element of the business has been designed as a 3-person pod, which can be embedded in organizations across the UK, with 18 participants conducting the program daily. As we scale, these pods will become replicable, and we will increase with the amount of funding that we get. Our plan campaigns to pre-profile organizations likely to be failed in the future. We had success with Dyson and Essence agency in implementing our experiential methods, as well as gathering statements of intent from organizations within the corporate world. The market is ripe for change, and organizations which harness the value of experience, particularly from their millennial cohort, will develop better engaged, productive, and innovative employees with the potential to make the most of any economic recovery. We have a working MVP, we've launched our website, and we're actively looking to extend our client list. In terms of the team, we've gathered experts from various industries. I spent 4 years as a tank commander before deploying on a NATO operational tour, and I spent 2 years rewriting the British Army's basic training syllabus. It was this experience combined with working on projects with companies such as Dyson and Krabby's, which convinced me of the need for a new form of team building. We're also lucky to be endorsed by General Paul Nansen, a former director of Army Leadership, and Commandant Sandhurst, and we rely on the experience of Barnaby Winter, our marketing expert with experience of launching over 570 brands, Michelle Mills-Porter as our behavioral profiling expert, and my brother Sam, who brings over 1,700 hours of escape room observation to the team.
20 seconds left.
We're looking for a one-off investment of £157,000 for 15% of the business to find and service the first 6 months of clients, equating to 30 projects at an average spend of 10K. There's a full business plan available to support this, and thank you for your time, and I'd welcome any feedback.
much, judges. Go ahead and jump in. Maybe start with Semiramis this time, since she's last to go. She has to go last every time. Why don't you go first this time?
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. So I didn't quite get the go-to-market strategy. So how are you going to acquire customers?
So the marketing strategy has been designed in conjunction with Barnaby. It's a content-led strategy. So as we establish ourselves within the market, we'll use a current client base to then improve that strategy. So we're basically trying to get people to sign up and then continue that momentum forwards.
Okay.
So one thing that I would definitely add to this pitch deck is financial projections, because this seems like a quite hard business to scale. You need to have a physical container, so I have this business can grow, and financial projections can show it to me as to investor. So I think it's definitely worth to add it. And a question from my side is, where are you today in the terms of market verification? How many either POCs or clients did you have?
So we've worked with 4 organizations, including Dyson, the Royal British Legion, and Essence, who are a large advertising agency, with developmental concepts, and we've started to investigate licensing arrangements with companies already operating within the sector. So we've got a couple of ways of getting to market, basically.
Yeah, go back to the scale problem. I think what seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, seems to me that what you have is more of a consulting, experiential learning consulting than an exponential growth venture, right? Because it's going to take a while for you to grow. If you go to other countries, for example, how are you going to build this business? Through franchising might be an option, but it's important to try to show how we're going to grow this exponentially, because most of the investors, they want to put money on a venture like this and get out 5 years later, right? And if in 5 years later you're not go, it's not going to become a lifestyle business, right? I mean, if it's a lifestyle business, no investor is gonna put money on it. Okay.
Yeah, of course, and obviously, we've projected that out better than I probably explained within the 4 minutes. But what is key to the delivery of this model is the replicability of each team of 3. So the exponential growth is gained by having multiple teams delivering the adaptive team decoder product.
First of all, nice clients, really like the clients. Thought it was very polished delivery, very cohesive. I agree with there wasn't enough time on getting clients, and that needs to be a lot crisper to attract investors. Valuation's probably about where it needs to be for the stage of the business. I think you need also to talk about a little bit more about the replicability of what you're doing. I like somebody's Gerson's already talked about franchising, but you like a franchising model. So every time you engage a new pod and a new team, they have got a model documented that they just run through. Yes, they'll have to sit with somebody and all the rest of it, but they've got all the Q&A, they've got all the operational procedures, they've got all of the stuff they need to do, everything is documented. So, and that effectively is your franchising model. And it could have been for McDonald's, but it is for DecodeXP. So I think that would make a big difference. And how much to set up a new pod in terms of capital does it take? Ignoring people costs, but the capital costs.
A pod costs £50,000 minus the people cost to develop and execute. So one way in which we also look for exponential growth is what I would call our Dyson model. So with Dyson, we've integrated ourselves into their induction process. So rather than us needing to be on site for every Dyson induction, we actually license our IP to Dyson, and then they teach what we've taught their trainers. So there are other ways of using our methodology to then gain growth.
And
we are out of time. Do you want to finish your last question? I can give 30 extra seconds.
Thank you, Andrew. Just a quick one. When you do that, is that like an ongoing revenue stream every time they use that induction process?
Yes, it's done on a yearly licensing arrangement.
Fab.
Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Big round of applause from everyone to Jamie. It's always hard to get up on stage, even when the stage is in your bedroom. So cheers.
Great. So thank you, everybody, for this opportunity. I'm Patrizia, co-founder of Chivado, and I'm here to introduce you the platform that is making digital food services sustainable. So the food hospitality industry is facing an unprecedented revenue fall. Existing delivery platforms are becoming extremely unsustainable, charging restaurants more than 30%. Food hospitality players are now looking for more efficient and sustainable ways to improve their digital presence and to offer the digital services. And this is why we created Chivado. Chivado is a B2B2C marketplace, completely app-based, that provides digital food services across the entire user consumption journey, unifying table orders and takeaway orders in one user-facing platform. So the way it works is pretty easy. Restaurants build their shop in their dedicated business app and set up their menus and order settings simply using their mobile phones. And user can access restaurant listings, can make takeaway orders, or scan the table QR code menu, depending on where they are willing to eat, just using the Chivado user app. Our product is self-marketable, affordable, and efficient. It is self-marketable because the user acquisition is driven by restaurants themselves, as we have our QR code menu placed on our partner tables. It is affordable because our revenue model relies on customer platform fee, with no charges on restaurants for basic products. This means also that restaurants advocate for us and they save enough to be able to take care of the delivery operations management by themselves. This way, they can deliver at higher standards and we can avoid high centralized delivery costs and scale pretty much everywhere in every deal. So we position Chivado as the first marketplace with a customer-facing platform that drives customer acquisition and sales across offline and online consumption channels in a very cost-efficient way and leaves basically an affordable past behind. We are conscious that we are accessing a market that is in significant growth, with digital food services trending to double in size in the next 3 years. And these are stats coming from Statista before the COVID pandemic. So now I expect to grow even way more. We believe then that our market share can easily be the 2% of the food delivery in the UK and the 6% in Italy by 2025. So we have a 5-year exit plan and a revenue forecast of 45 million with 6,000 restaurants and 4.5 million users by 2025 across our two home markets. And we consider these numbers quite conservative because we are already experiencing a significant traction without having a marketing budget nor sales resources. So the product is live and is just selling itself. Till now, we self-funded the company. But we just opened in November our first funding round for 500K, out of which we got already 15%, by the way, just in few days. And the reason why we are opening this round for 500K is that we want now to accelerate even faster the penetration in Italy and prepare the product to scale to 1 million users already so that we can be competitive enough for the UK launch. As our product is self-marketable, we intend to spend the majority of the investment in human resources in order to strengthen the sales and the product development teams. So we consider investing in Chivado a very big opportunity. And the reason is the market is in large growth. Our business model is efficient. Our product is self-marketable and self-scalable. Chivado is live and is already showing up the traction after just 3 months. Plus, we have a tremendously hungry and dedicated team made of 6 people and a board of 3. With me as a co-founder with 10 years experience in marketing and advertising operations, my business partner Federico, who has 20 years experience in software development and cloud architecture, and Danilo, our new joiner, who is our first investor, advisor, and successful entrepreneur with several successful exits in his career. And that would be my overview. I hope you enjoyed it and open to any questions. Thank you so much.
Time. Judges, go ahead and jump in whenever you're ready.
I'm trying to come back to the platform.
No, you're fine. We can hear you. You're perfect.
Thank you.
Patricia, I found I'm not sure if you showed, but I saw in the deck that was sent that you are moving from a free version to a freemium version, like a paid version. Early 2021, is that correct? Because
yes, so yes and no. I will explain a little bit. The core is basically for everyone. Sorry, Pauline, can I ask if you could mute yourself 1 second so that I can answer the question? Do you mind? I'm so sorry to ask you that.
We hear her voice really loudly, Colin, through your speaker. Could you mute while she replies? Just press the mic button while she answers, and then just unmute yourself when you're speaking. Sorry.
No worries. So I was saying yes and no. You're right. We decided strategically not to start any revenue stream in 2020. We will start by the second half of 2021, and there is a reason for that. Our main revenue model is based on a customer platform fee made on order. Obviously, we access delivery order, the takeaway orders, and restaurant orders as well. This is what is true for the core product. So to restaurants, the way we are positioning the platform is the core digital services are free to them. There are then some additional products that they can obviously access in a freemium solution, like you were saying. And there is a strategic reason why we are positioning this like that. There are, especially in the Italian market, but also in the UK market outside of London, there is a huge slice of the industry that is not digitalized yet. And this means that this is because mostly the existing delivery platforms have a model that scales very well in cities, but less well in the countrysides, villages, and areas in which it's more difficult to scale with a centralized operation system. To do, we are willing to bring the digitalization everywhere and then allow them to understand the value of more advanced products that they can add on top, because the core product would be free. So we basically serve the industry in order to grow, which is amazing.
So Patricia, thank you very much for your presentation. So maybe now feedback from my side. Our fund is investing among others in food tech, and especially in this COVID period, those kind of businesses were coming at our desk like mushrooms after the rain. So there are many businesses in this sector. And after looking at your presentation, you didn't show us right now your competitors' analysis, but in your pitch deck, you compared yourself to Uber Eats, to Glovo, etc. And yeah, so I think that you should definitely put stronger emphasis on your USPs, because now when you said about digitization of those restaurants, now it makes more sense. But previously, I think that investors, after looking at many similar companies, they could have a problem with inviting you to the meeting because the USPs weren't visible there. So I think you need to put stronger emphasis on that. Where is your real value that you are giving?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the feedback, and I actually will follow up on that. So I'll take it on board. I think why we include obviously Just Eat Delivery, the biggest platforms in the delivery industry, because they are part of the picture. So we access, we aim to get a slice from their current industry, obviously, but that's not just it. So that's not just it. Yes, we are also accessing much more, and we are producing much more. It's true that with the COVID situation, a lot of new players are coming into picture with the innovative business model. We think the I mean, we think the centralized business model is actually old, but still restaurants need a customer-facing platform that can drive for them the user acquisition. So we position ourselves in the middle, in between vertical B2B only companies and B2C platforms that at the moment are one channel, are focusing on one consumption channel only. Thank you for the feedback. I will incorporate this in the slides in future.
30 seconds left if someone has a final.
Yeah, very quick question. How do you make money?
So there are a few revenue streams that we outlined in our deck. The main one, which is the biggest contributor, is the customer platform fee, which is basically a small contribution on orders. As we access more orders, because we have both table orders and takeaway orders, we can even release our platform fee as a very, very low amount to still make a big portion of revenue. So that will be the main one. But there are also others that we will unlock in the future years. Thank you.
Up, big round of applause in the audience for Patricia. Great job, and great job jumping at the last second too. You saved the day. Ian is trying to solve his difficulties in one of the other rooms, so we're going to bring on Ivy from the Science Writing Revolution.
Hello everyone, my name is Ivy Cavendish, founder and CEO of the Science Writing Revolution. The 2020 pandemic has taught us a great deal, not least that fast and efficient methods of data sharing in science is a matter of global importance. At present, the scientific writing process is slow, expensive, exhausting, and highly exclusionary. We at the Science Writing Revolution are changing that. Now, a quick note about our business model first. Our users are scientists, with 10% of our ultimate sales being B2C, so straight to these scientists, and 90% B2B to the institutes employing these scientists. First, let's start with the problems of our users and B2C customers. The scientific writing process is incredibly expensive, taking between 3 and 16 months and costing £6,000 plus, resulting in fewer papers written, less research being performed, and scientists struggling to find and fund their next project. It's also an exhausting task that destroys all semblance of a healthy work-life balance, with many scientists ending up with complete mental health burnout, requiring extended periods of sick leave. Finally, the writing process has this uncanny knack for magnifying diversity barriers, with the knock-on effect of neurodiverse scientists being severely disadvantaged in the world of publish or perish. Now, the effects of these user-based problems magnify enormously when viewed from an organizational position, i.e. our B2B customer, universities, institutes, industry science companies. These problems magnify to result in less research being performed, less funding and innovation, money and opportunities wasted, and D&I targets going unmet. To put this in context, let's take a look at our market. Now, as you can see, this is a problem that affects 9.7 million scientists worldwide, a population that churns out 2.9 million papers every year, rising almost 10% per annum. As is evident, the opportunity here for a company that solves this problem is enormous, with potential yearly revenue amounting to £1.47 billion with 2020 stats alone. Speaking of which, we've solved the problem. Presenting to write, the modern solution to writing scientific papers. Instead of 3 to 16 months and £6,000 plus, a scientist may now write a paper in as little as 5 days for £500 ARPU. Instead of causing burnout and negatively impacting scientific careers, To-Write actively supports the mental health of scientists along with any neurodiversities they may have. The Science Writing Revolution was founded off the back of an early success of the To-Write method. Our now Chief of Sales, Algernon Bloom, like many scientists, was having difficulty writing their PhD thesis owing to their dyslexia and the lack of literary training and support afforded to scientists. In response to this problem, I developed a system of writing that would go on to allow Algernon to write a viva-passing 40,000-word thesis in 25 working hours. Having confirmed the efficacy of To-Write with another prototype, this is when our Chief Technical Officer, Al D, joined our team. Like many scientists before them, Al left that academic career as a physicist owing to the scientific writing barrier, later becoming a software engineer fully committed to developing an app that would remove the barriers they and Algernon faced as scientists. Now, there are 3 services in our business model: paid logins, editing and proofreading services, and a transcription service. The average revenue per customer is £500 and the lifetime value of our customer is £20,000. We require only 77 users per month to self-sustain. We have recently begun our first round of funding, seeking £150,000 for a 7-month runway. The object of our project is to develop our MVP, followed by a 4-month period of iterative testing and development at our partnered research hubs. After this 7-month period, we will have a fully functional iteration of 2Write ready for commercial launch in month 8. We will also have an efficacy study confirming the validity of our methods, as well as letters of intent. We will then have a second funded seed round stretching from months 8 to 18.
Is up, but it just eats into your other time.
Great. From months 8 to 18, which will take us through to break even in month 18, followed by profitability in month 20, with a goal of 200 users per month by month 24, with a gross revenue of £100,000 and a net profit of £61,500. Thank you.
Go ahead and jump in, and we'd love to hear your feedback. We can start with anybody who is in the mood.
Nice presentation, thank you. Very clear. Massive market opportunity. Totally agree. What's the magic sauce? First question. Second question, have you got any pilots lined up, signed, committed users, and who are they?
Well, the magic sauce is that this is the first time that scientific writing has been approached as serious literature. It's has serious literary analysis, because everything we write creates a pattern, and you can take that pattern and reverse engineer it into a software, which we have done, which essentially a scientist can go in and say, okay, my study was like this, it was like this, I had this problem, and judging by what journal they wish to publish in, we can come up with a perfect personal essay plan for them. Because the biggest problem with scientific writing, it's that they're not taught how to write these papers. They spend months upon months freaking out, for better word, because we looked at this study by Ackerman and Gross in 2012, and they found 3 reasons that scientists procrastinate. They don't know how to start, they don't know how long it's going to take, and they think it's going to be really hard. Our software directly goes against these 3 things. It is very clear, it's very easy, clear timeframes. Oh, yes, and your second question.
Pilots.
Yes, so we've done some paper prototypes. Very successful. As you very possibly know, abstracts can take weeks. They are the beast of burden of every academic paper. They take weeks and weeks. We've had an abstract written in 43 minutes. And we've had some very positive conversations with the University of Sussex about a research partnership. And we've received a verbal agreement with Aspect, which is a research collaboration between the universities of Oxford, Manchester, London School of Economics, Sheffield, and the Zinc Business Park.
Thank you.
Left.
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation, Ivy. You said that scientific writing has some patterns, and investors also have some patterns. And what I see in your pitch deck, you perfectly fit into the pattern business run by tech people. It's visible in a few points. First of all, your team, I think it needs somebody who will complete it with this business skills. You have 3 people, all of them are either PhDs or tech people, and it's also visible throughout the pitch deck. You do not really have the information about financials, also nothing about your business model, very little information about go-to-market strategy, and very little information about your traction. So it says to me as an investor that I will be dealing with tech people, and I will either need to find them somebody who will take care of the business, or I would need to work very closely with them. So my advice would be to find somebody who will help you with that, and who will also structure this pitch deck in a more business way. Great. In reply to that, we are actually seeking a business-minded COO to join our team. And after a few conversations with some investors last night, we
actually chose to cut out a few of our pitch slides, so competition, milestones, traction, that kind of thing, just so I could give a clear presentation with information not squidged in. But yes, taking that on board, thank you very much.
Okay, so as far as I understand, you're raising 150K for 7 months of runway, right?
Yes.
And you're planning to raise another funding at the 8th month. Don't you think that it's too time consuming for a little time span from 0 to 7 months and then doing another fundraising? Why don't you just like raise a little bit more that could go for 12 months so that you can focus more on the product and the marketing and acquiring customers?
We were initially going with that strategy. However, owing to the nature of our software, it relies on algorithms that we can't actually make without funding, because I need some research that I can teach how to make these algorithms. And in order to get the amount that we would need for a whole year, that would be around £400,000 mark, because our monthly burn rate jumps up to 35K once you get to month 8.
Yeah.
We would have to let go of quite a lot of equity in order to make someone, I don't know, trust us that, you know, we're going to take that very large amount of money and turn it into a, you know, profitable business, because there's only so much pre-MVP validation that we can do with a paper prototype, because we can't protect a paper prototype.
Okay.
We are 30 seconds over, unfortunately, but it sounds like there's some additional questions, so I do recommend
it's
connecting
not a
with
question,
folks.
it's just a suggestion. Innovate UK grant. You haven't already done it, you need to do it, and that will help you with your cash flow. I'm not going to say any more because we're over. But
we're over. Thank you so much, Ivy. Round of applause for Ivy.
Thank you very much.
That was great and very interesting. Ian, I'm so happy to see your face. We did it.
Hello.
Look at this.
How you doing?
This is Ian from Active Needle. Go ahead and share your screen. And let's get this rolling. And those were some great questions from the judges as well. I love a mix of feedback and questions. You are full screen. You're perfect. I can hear you. I can see you. Your time starts now.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present Active Needle to you this evening. We're doing some really exciting things with ultrasonic needles over a range of applications. We're looking for 420K on a pre-money of around 5 million to capitalize on an impending CE mark. We're just in the Q&A phase there now. We're expecting that at any time to take us into commercial sales and to continue our product development runway on some other interesting projects we've got as well. So let's jump straight into the technology. Okay, so the great thing about needles in medicine and other applications is they're long and thin. They can get to where you need to go and deliver or extract material to and from the body. However, the problem with needles is they're long and they're thin and they bend, and they're very difficult to see as a consequence on ultrasound, which is one of the major imaging modalities for things like biopsy and anesthesia. This can cause a significant amount of problems in terms of missed targets for biopsy, misplacement of needles causing injury, sometimes very serious injury in terms of anesthesia needle placement in nerves, and in extremis that can lead to paralysis. So it's a very large market, both in terms of core needle biopsy and in terms of anesthesia. And what we do is we vibrate the needle very rapidly, but only over about a micron, so a very tiny amount. And what that means is the needle lights up on Doppler ultrasound and it bends much less away from its target location. And the great thing about that is we can reduce the not only the adverse events, the potential paralysis and the other adverse events that can come from needle misplacements. We can also upskill more junior doctors and potentially move the intervention further upstream, and reduce really the main economic impact is to reduce not only the adverse incidents but the the number of repeats that are required, which can cost several $1,000s. There are multiple doctors involved in that. I've spoken about very rapidly, spoken about biopsy and about anesthesia, but this slide shows any intervention where you need to put a needle in a specific place with a great degree of accuracy with ultrasound imaging. We have a play there, and the technology is readily transferable to each of these areas. Another area we're looking at is in life sciences, which is an aligned market. It's a very large market. The medical market is well over $2 billion. There's a breakdown in the longer deck that you should have access to. This is a customer-led project. GlaxoSmithKline, AstraZeneca wanted a reduction of waste in preclinical mammal experiments. Particularly germane at the moment, lots of vaccines going through the testing cycle. And there are many millions of experiments that are done each year, and large amounts of loss are incurred through the wastage of these extremely expensive and limited preclinical drug, vaccine, and cell therapy candidates. And we are exceeding expectations. We have a device which is ready to go. We're not quite at CE mark yet, but we expect to book sales from that device, which is nearing completion from Q3 of this year. Another area to talk about, again, the single golden thread that runs through all of this is the ultrasonic needle. And what I want to direct your attention to is the graph on the top right. If you apply an ultrasonic motion, 50,000 cycles per second over a micron, what you get is a greatly reduced insertion force, which is the reason it bends off target less. But that also means the skin trauma is much less. The needle is effectively very much sharper and a low friction entity. So no susception that the triggering of nerve endings to cause pain is significantly reduced. We've done this.
Time is up, so I recommend wrapping up.
Okay. Great team, lots of experience across a large number of different areas, a lot of medical device experience. So just to summarize, it's patented, it's unique, it's the first to market in this technology, very high margins, over 80% margin, recurring revenue model. It's a high value opportunity across a number of areas. We've got blue chip pharma buy-in. It's highly disruptive. There's no competition in many of these areas, particularly tattooing and life science. And sales are expected to commence in the middle of next year. Some websites to check out.
Much judges, go ahead and jump in and start wherever you'd like.
I'll start. I have a habit of starting. Love the presentation. Unfortunately, I couldn't read the slides. Too much on the print, too small, because we end up with about a sixth of the screen that the slides actually display on. So just for the future, fantastic opportunity. Love the IP. Love the high margins. Love the partners you're working with, customers, partners. Have they signed contracts with you? First question. And secondly, have you got any of the 420K you're looking to raise?
So that round is only just opened. To answer your second question first, we have booked some of that. We are in discussions with some individuals who write big ticket checks. So that's a process that started. We do not have a contract yet above an R&D contract with the blue chips. They're extremely clean. It's a problem they want to be solved, and we are, as I said in the pitch, we are overperforming their expectations. So they've indicated to us that the contract is a matter of time. It's a when, not if.
Quick question, Ian.
Yes.
420K out of about £5 million is a very small percentage, and particularly if you have 3 patents in a very interesting area. If you already have the sign-off contract, why the hell you need investment? You can negotiate an upfront payment or something like that. What are you gonna do with this 400K?
Yeah, so that is to extend our runway across the period where we start medical sales. As you may know, with medical sales, you have to, it's loss making for a short time before it picks up, and you have to build the market.
Right.
And also, our intention is to, that first deal, the first sales will be with Blue Chip Pharma in the summer. So we want to extend our runway and give us a lot of comfort to get there to fulfill those orders, and we'll also prosecute the other projects as well.
This equity is going to cost a lot of money in the future, right? I mean, if you can, you already funded, right? I mean, you have developed, you have 3 patents, you have a product. I mean, from an entrepreneur point of view, to raise money at this stage, you're actually giving equity cheap.
It's a relatively small amount. I'd take your point. What we want to do is move rapidly, so we want to make it attractive. We think there's a very large revenue potential in this across a range of these projects, and the numbers I think are in the longer deck. So we want to get on with it. We want to press on, and we don't want to drip feed. And there's always a balance between dilution and getting the funds you need to press on.
We just lose Ian. Ian, you have a minute left. You have vanished. Oh, there we go. It's so funny because in real life, this would never happen. Like, so imagine someone on stage just disappearing,
runs away,
like,
and
where
runs
did they go?
back on again.
No, so you've got to.
My advice: he doesn't need investment; he just run away.
That would be funny. No, you've got a minute left, Ian. Do your minute.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much. Any other points from Semiramis or Carolina?
Points. So I wonder, what is your go-to-market strategy? Because you mentioned 2 spaces, tattoo spaces and medical one. So I can imagine that tattoo is much more easier to enter because you do not need all the medical certificates, but probably it's less profitable. And you mentioned that you expect your first orders in Q3 2021. So from which market those orders would be, and what is your go-to-market strategy?
Okay, thanks. So sales will be booking from Blue Chip Pharma on a pre-order of devices that we would then fulfill, and some limited market release of the first medical product, the biopsy product, so that we can establish lead centers, reference centers for others. The go-to-market strategy is via distributors. For tattoo, yes, the regulatory barriers are lower. My background's in medical device regulatory affairs, amongst other things, so it's not particularly difficult or challenging, and we're pretty much at CE mark now for the first of those projects. So yeah, does that answer the question? Route to market is distributors, and okay.
We are out of time. A big round of applause for Ian. And I'm so glad that we got you on here.
Thank you
were
very
the most dramatic on and off person, but we made it happen.
Does I get a prize?
You do. I'll let you know what that is later.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you, Ian. So I am bringing on Io right now. Io, you should have access.
My name is Ayo Daudu from Loystar, where we're working to enable African SMEs become champions of their economy. So it's common knowledge that small businesses power Africa's economies, and we have over 100 million African businesses that contribute up to 70% of Africa's employment. So I'd like to tell you a story about one merchant who's now a client of ours. Earlier this year in Lagos, Nigeria, there was a fire outbreak in markets in the city. Now, this lady lost her shop and lost goods worth millions. But what's interesting about her case is that she had insurance cover. However, she wasn't able to claim this insurance because she had no sales records. She had no sense of the inventory that was lost in the fire and the records of what she sold in the past. So we've traced the challenges to how difficult it is for small businesses to keep track of their sales accurately, retain their customers, and of course, access capital when the time comes. So what we're building for them is a next generation point of sale platform that is able to track transactions across channels, whether you're selling online or offline, They can keep track of their customers. They can run programs to drive repeat sales. And if they want to switch to digital in this COVID era, it's easy for them because we've provided plugins they can install, and then they can take the products from their store and put them online. So far, we've recorded about 20,000 transactions, 1,000 merchants across this market, mostly in West Africa, but we're a company. We've had merchants from the US and the UK as well. Over 13,000 of these customers and over 500K in transaction value. We've also been supported by these globally recognized institutions. So what we're selling, it's a mobile point of sale application available on Android. We've got a web platform as well. We've also got a mobile payment product called USSD. So basically you can dial a short code to make payments at the point of sale. We are also building that integration to popular tools that these merchants use just to create a richer experience and of course get access to customer analytics. We've identified a growing market across West Africa. We've seen 8 million of these merchants digitally inclusive. They have access to the internet. And with 150 USD they pay us every year, we realize a market value of over $1 billion. To make this idea financially viable, we offer a product for a monthly fee that starts at $10. We have a pro plan that goes for $25, and we're also taking a transaction fee on each successful transaction we process. So between 1% and 4% is what we take. We're definitely not alone in the space. Just to give you a sense of the kind of product we're building, it's like Square. If you know Square based in the US, Jack Dorsey's other startup. Loystar is similar to that. But how we're differentiating ourselves is we're the only option that enables merchants to get started easily and integrated into the tools they already use. We know of a company called InterSuite. We've tried this in the past with a product called RetailPay. But that product comes with all the bells and whistles of a cloud infrastructure, and it'll be very difficult for the average business to get started with. And if you know SMEs, they don't like to interact with too many technologies. They just want one thing that does everything for them. And that's what Loystar is. So to acquire customers, we've been a mix of offline and online channels. So last month, for example, we had over 20K impressions, 26K actually, online search, and over 1,000 of that landed on our website. And that's how we've been able to acquire customers to search for solutions with the targeted keywords and we pop up. But we're also working with like small businesses, communities to access merchants at a larger scale. And of course, working with financial institutions. We just signed one NDA with a bank, local bank here in Lagos, Nigeria. To reach our next milestone, we're asking for $150,000. And currently at the moment, we make $7 annual recurring revenue from each merchant, and we want to grow that by 8 with this investment. So in the next 2 years, we want to be seeing over $50 as an average annual revenue for each merchant we get. Another
is up if you want to wrap up what you're doing.
Sure. Working with partners in the PTSP space, and this is how we plan to use the fund. This is the team behind Loystar. I have lots of experience. I have a master's in networking and internet systems. Brian does our backend. I was one of the developers that built MyKidsy.com. It's a London startup for children's activities. I have a master's degree from Lancaster University. We're supported by these advisors. I hope you can join us in realizing our Pan-African vision. Thank you.
Go ahead and jump in. We would love to hear your feedback or questions.
Ayu, Jason here. Great presentation. Let me ask a quick one. Do you have already the product, and are you making money? I mean, how much revenue are you making year to date?
Yes, so far our revenue is around 14K. We definitely have a product in the market. We have a web platform and we have a mobile app.
US dollars, this is what, monthly revenue, or this is
no, that's accumulated revenue to date, USD.
Right.
I wonder if there is a real innovation in this solution, or is it more like an existing kind of a platform adapted to African conditions?
Yeah, so what we've seen is when small business try to track sales in like a mom and pop store, try to track the transaction, existing solutions that are available don't work for them. And that's because the payment system don't work. But what we've done is taken the local payment systems and integrated it into our solution. So it's not exactly a new thing, but it's a much needed solution because, I mean, businesses need to track their numbers. So for example, the lady I mentioned, she wanted to claim her insurance cover and she had no records. In some cases, it's capital from the bank or from a financial institution or from just an investor, and they don't have any record to show. So it's a much needed solution. But what's interesting about what we want to innovate around is, though we are building for the supply side, we've got products, we've got information about what these merchants sell. We're going to spin off a marketplace and develop a mobile marketplace experience for customers. So we have a B2B product. The next step for us is to create a B2C product that will now form like a lead generation for these businesses. So we take all of their products, put it in the marketplace, and then a business for them, and of course retain their customers.
How much does it cost you to service a client, i.e. to install a client? Is there hardware involved, or is it just software that goes onto an existing platform? They've got a PC or a mobile?
So it's a pure software solution that can work with any PC. So we usually tell our clients, if you have Android device or if you have your PC, you can use it. But if you want to buy a dedicated device, I mean, go online and shop for one. But our solution, what we sell, is pure software. And to onboard a client, once they sign up, we send them an email with an onboarding link and say, okay, if you book a demo session, and within 20 minutes, show you all of the solution everywhere, every part of it, and then you like it, subscribe to it.
They pay you a monthly fee. They pay you with a credit card or bank transfer, collect the cash.
So it's a mix, right? I mean, in different markets, we're in Ghana, we're in Nigeria, we're in Gambia. In the US, we use PayPal to collect money. In Nigeria, it's bank transfer, or we've got a Flutterwave. It's a card processing company. In Ghana, mobile money is common, so they can dial from the phone and then send money to us. So it's a mix.
So what is your scaling strategy? Because you mentioned that you have like a business in Ghana, in Nigeria, and then those markets are very different. So what is your scaling strategy?
Yeah, so early on, actually, we are now focused on West Africa mostly, but early on we opened it up. It's a software product, right? And then merchants are actively searching on the Play Store. So they're searching customer loyalty. So we started out with our loyalty solution, right? So they're searching for loyalty solution in the App Store, and then it pops up and then they install, and then they've been using it. Or they go online on Google and search inventory or sales tracking software, and we pop up. So, but we've now scaled down. I mean, we've decided West Africa, but again, this solution is relevant. So anyone can pick it up. For example, yesterday we had a market from France. But really, to serve a client in some of these countries, it might be more expensive because some of the solution requires SMS sending, and so terminating SMS to those countries is a little bit expensive, except we work with a local provider. So we just decided to focus on the local market there.
Time is up. Thank you so much, Io. A big round of applause from the audience, and we really appreciate having you.
I'm sorry, I've been sitting quietly. So good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for hanging on in there to listen to me for a few minutes. I'm Stephen Wheatley. I'm CEO of a business called HearAngel. We protect one of your senses. So at the moment, you use your hearing and it sounds good when you go out with your friends, when you go to the pub, when you watch television, you go to a concert, or perhaps you go to the theatre. So what do you think might stop it from sounding good? Well, on the left, you can see what is fairly typical now when we're not locked down and we're allowed to go out, is people wearing headphones. But if you wear headphones and you listen for a few hours a day, in 30 years' time, you're going to be like the lady on the right who's having hearing aids fitting. So how will it sound then? Will you be able to converse with your friends when you go out for a drink? Probably not. Will you be able to hear the television? Probably not. or listen in the pub when somebody's telling a good story, converse with people when you're out shopping, or going to the theatre and enjoying it, or probably for a lot of us, losing out in hearing when you're at a concert. That's going to be really difficult if you can't hear. And if you wear headphones, that's what the future looks like. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is a product like HearAngel, which we're going to talk about here. And HearAngel is like a Fitbit for your ears. What it does is it provides you as a user with information that lets you monitor and manage your own exposure and that of your children. It's deployed as firmware in the headphones with a display on the handset, and it meets the safety regulations. So what are the market conditions? Well, they're getting better all the time. Currently, there are 450 million headphones forecast to be sold in the year 2020, and that is expected to rise by another 50 million next year. There are new safety regulations and standards being introduced for headphone users. The World Health Organization is on the case, and they've got a campaign that's aimed at 12 to 35-year-olds. This is so important that Apple has already recognized these safety standards and has incorporated into their iOS 13 and above products. So what are the routes to market? Well, I can't tell you who those people are down the left, but suffice to say that you would recognize them if I were permitted to tell you who they are. Company number 3, we already have a signed distribution agreement with, and company number 4, we have a letter of intent from, along with 2 other letters of intent. We're also working with Qualcomm, who are the world's biggest supplier of wireless headphone chips, and we are part of their extension program. So we get joined in with their salespeople when they're talking to their customers. The revenue forecasts are here. We're looking at growing to a turnover of about nearly 4 million in the second year, and the valuations are below, estimated to be around about 16, 17 million in the second year. So who's going to deliver? I'm Stephen Wheatley. I've started a number of successful businesses already, and a tracker network, we raised £8 million and sold out for 39. In our supporting cast, we have people who have experience of developing software to run on the Qualcomm chips. What do we need? We need £500,000 for 15% of the business, and the principal use of funds is to finish the product so it can be delivered, and then the exit is likely through a sale to a firmware company once we have started to get customers. We have already got one firmware company making eyes at us. Finally, there is also a social impact involved here, because HearAngel will make sure it sounds good for hundreds of millions of headphone users and children. Thank you.
Oh, he said the moment he said you, the time ran out. That was spot on. Great work.
Thank you, Stephen. So what is the stage of the product?
We have commissioned, I don't know how much you know, this is firmware. So the firmware is runs on the chips, and the process is we have now got a software development kit from Qualcomm, and we are working with David Hargreaves, who is ex-Qualcomm. He's working as a project manager for us, and he is building a demonstrator which will be completed early in the new year. And we're using that to support this fundraise. When we've got the funds, we're probably on a 4 or 5 month runway to finish the firmware. To the point.
We just lost you when I tried to close your screen. Here we go. I got you back on, Stephen, right here. There, you're back.
Better with me, with no picture actually of me, but there you are.
No, you look great. You're very sharp.
I dressed up for you. Special. Sorry, are there any other questions?
I will.
After you, Carolina.
Thank you very much, Colin. So I want the history of the company and how you came up with this solution, because you mentioned that in the recent 10 years you raised 1.2 sorry, you raised 1.4 million or
Yes,
10 million
that's
in funding.
correct.
And you're raising 500,000. So what's the history behind that?
Okay, we started off, thank you very much, a very good question. It's what gives us the credibility in this business. We started off 10 years ago. I suffer from some hearing damage and hearing loss. Mine is mainly from motorcycles and Led Zeppelin. And I got involved in this business with a professional sound engineer and a technician, a technologist, Richard, who is still with us. And we set off to protect the hearing of people who wear headphones at work. Okay, so they're wearing headphones to do their job. And we have been very successful with the technology. It's not going to make us rich and famous. So we have customers who include people like the BBC, the Royal Canadian Parliament, the Royal Netherlands Navy, QVC, and a plethora of other, Metropolitan Police and others. But it's not a big enough market. So this is where we learned our lessons. And what we have done is from those lessons, we have come up with a solution for these headphones, wireless headphones, in putting the firmware onto the chipset and then putting the control onto your handset. So it's been a long road, but we needed to have learned that to be credible and to have got to the solution we have. Thank you for your question. Are there any other questions?
Great pitch. Well done, Stephen. You and I know each other very well, but great pitch. I could read every one of your slides. Fantastic. Fantastic for the first time this evening. You've completed on time. Very, very clear pitch as well. So well done on that. Main question is, if you can't raise all of the money, what will you do? Say you only raise $250,000.
Excuse me. If we raise $250,000, we also are exploring an Innovate UK opportunity and a forward fund government grant. So we're exploring a number of opportunities. There is an opportunity for us to do a strategic partnership with a firmware company. It's early days. They have some complementary, they're much bigger business than we are. They have some complementary technologies, and they're now, if you understand, they're making eyes at us. We are being very coy because we don't want to devalue what we have. If we couldn't raise it, I would push that negotiation much harder and see whether perhaps they might fund it. We're also in a discussion with Qualcomm about whether they might fund it too. So there are a number of ways of doing this. I'm reasonably confident. What's going to happen is we have a pipeline of about 17 or 18 negotiations.
30 seconds if you want to wrap it up.
Yes, of course. We have 17 or 18 negotiations going on. I'm pushing more of those to get letters of intent or indeed sign agreements like the one we already have. Are there any other final questions?
I think unfortunately we're out of time, but thank you
very
very much,
much
Stephen,
and
a big round of applause to a fantastic deck. Cheers.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. And perhaps everyone is waiting to go to lunch or dinner, depending on what time zone you're in. So I'll be quick. Just a little bit of background. I started back in the mid-80s. I have a master's in computer science, specializing in artificial intelligence. Worked for about 10 years at Logica, working in space and defense, building several, if you like, world firsts in applications of artificial intelligence in defense, and also a brain surgery robot. Moved to the States in '96 and built, for the second largest U.S. pharmacy, a drug interaction checking system that they use for checking prescriptions. And later on, ran Amazon's largest enterprise business, which was $1 billion business. So, which helped me actually understand consumer behavior and, if you like, the e-commerce side of the business. So about 2 years ago, being a hypochondriac, having gone from my younger days of being invincible to the older age, started getting concerned about, keeping healthy and fit. So I started buying all sorts of gadgets, wearables, and, using my smartphone to try and see how they could help me. And surprisingly, I found that there's wonderful data lots of data that's coming to me, but hard to understand. It took me weeks and sometimes months to actually understand how to use that data. Now, given that 300 million wearables have been sold in 2019, and more than 1 billion smartphones have been sold, I realized there was an opportunity to address this problem as an opportunity. And I put together a team of technologists, a few professors in UK universities, and also 14 medical doctors in different specialties to create MIA, which is like a virtual doctor in your pocket. So, and I'm pleased to give you a presentation on MIA. I know you've seen our deck, so I'm not going to go through every slide. I'm just going to focus on a couple that I think would hopefully add some color to what you've seen already. So the idea of MIA is that you collect data from your wearables and your smartphone. And by the way, just using your smartphone from the camera of the smartphone, scanning your face or putting your finger on the back of the camera, you'll be able to collect vitals. We've developed unique algorithms to actually be able to do that. So it's affordable and accessible. Using information about demographics, lifestyle habits, and medical history of every user, we analyze that information and create a profile for every single user, and then use it in order to give them actionable advice. Things that they're doing to risk their health, like, for example, how your sleep is affecting your blood pressure and so on. And also things you can do to, if you like, improve your health if you have chronic conditions. And also call for help if you are in an emergency. So all of that is powered by cognitive artificial intelligence, which is AI that understands, as opposed to machine learning, which we also use for recognizing patterns in data. So this is an example of MIA in action. It can be licensed to telemedicine operators in order to help them understand, if you like, what is going on with the patient's vital signs while they're talking to that person. Our target markets are caregivers, telemedicine providers, and consumers, ultimately. And our revenue model is, this is actually a conservative version, is based on raising revenue through channels.
A few seconds left.
And partnerships. Thank you. Current status, we've actually got MOUs established with several channel providers, including 100 million plus consumer pools in the UK, US, and India, and 80% of the product has been developed. We're raising $1 million in funding. Our revenue model is white labeling, licensing, and subscription fees, and 60% of the money is going to be spent on engineering, 25% on marketing, and 10% on operations. And that is my presentation.
So much, judges. You can jump in whenever you are ready.
I'll jump in quickly. How do you know this works? Have you got like an MVP that people are trialing and using and making actions and decisions?
Yes, we actually have a team of 14 medical doctors in different specialties, neurology and geriatrics and so on, and they're participating and have been helping us evaluate our algorithms and actually provide feedback. And we are confident that, the data that we are, basically the analysis that we're doing is as good as what you get on your Apple Watch or the Samsung Watch. And by the way, those devices are data sources for us. We're not competing with them. We just add value to people who have them.
Just jumping on this on this point, what prevents Apple to launch the new version of the Apple Watch and do whatever you're doing? I mean, what are competitors? How you didn't mention anything like that. How do you see that?
Well, I'll be very happy to. First of all, Apple is a device manufacturer. Their main purpose in life is to sell their watches. They don't actually build healthcare software. They acquire companies, or they allow other people, through Apple Health to access their API. The Apple Watch is a fantastic device for providing sensory data, but very few people actually understand what that data means. Our job is to provide an affordable app that actually helps you make sense of that data. So whatever Apple does to the device is fantastic for us. It makes our job easier. What we have is cognitive artificial intelligence, which is a very rare skill in artificial intelligence. It's not machine learning, and it takes years and decades to develop, and is very experiential. So that actually combined with machine learning gives us a competitive advantage technologically. So with respect to our competitors, we have, obviously with the 4 minutes, we can only say so much. There is, companies like Babylon, who probably you've heard of. It's basically a question tree with no intelligence, despite their claims. And, many companies who've actually used them have stopped actually using them, including hospitals. There is a company, a startup in Israel called Bina, who, if you like, claim to do facial analysis for biometrics. Again, they don't actually show any real stuff. I could actually give a live demo, if there's interest to see it. So we've actually developed key technologies, each of which could be a business by themselves. Whereas our purpose is to integrate them and provide, if you like, this doctor in a pocket capability, which requires integration of data. Numbers are not health. Numbers don't tell you health. Health is more than numbers. So that's what we're all about.
The distribution channels you're establishing help fund you?
Oh, my apologies. I couldn't hear that you lost the last
Sorry.
part.
Will any of the distribution channels that you've established help with your funding?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that having the MOUs and having those relationships go towards validation of concept and, of course, from revenue. One of them, especially the one in India, there is a group who's involved in deploying 100 million low-cost smartphones that we have an MOU with. The idea would be for our app to actually seed that phone when it's launched. So those people actually have sources of funding, and getting some government funding from the Indian government is an option. Our other partners are really clinical. They're like, there's a clinical group in the UK and some care homes in the United States and the UK who are really going to be users and revenue channels for us, but not investment partners. We raised $1 million, actually 1.2 million in seed funding, by the way. So we're post-seed, and right now we're raising $1 million to complete the front-end part, which is the user experience, and actually launch it through our channels. And our target launch, pending the completion of funding, is Q1 of next year.
There's about a minute left. If anyone has any advice they want to offer, even if you don't have questions, advice is always welcome as well.
Are you based in the UK or not?
Yes, I'm actually from the UK, but we have operations in the US and UK. Most of our medical team and our operations are in the UK.
Okay. Have you looked at Innovate UK grants?
We have indeed, and we're actually applying for an AI in Healthcare award. We're actually preparing our submission as we speak.
And is the deal EIS-able?
It would be. We've decided not to go down that route because it would negate US investment. And, if we can get, our target is if we could raise $2.5 million from UK sources, then we would go EIS. But otherwise, we've decided not to do that.
Thank you so much. Your time is up. Really appreciate having you. And a big round of applause from the audience and from us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Cheers. So for the judges who can still speak, we're going to jump into the judge discussion session room. I'd love to unpack some of the advice that I heard, but I just want to be clear, you don't have to stay. Like, I know that people have lives. You're not all like me, where I'm just obsessed. Like, I could talk to you all night, quite frankly. But I would love to have you, even if you could only come for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I'd love to have you in there. And I definitely want Colin to come in there and mention Innovate UK, because way more people than I can believe don't even know what that is. But for anyone who, just in case one of the judges isn't able to come over, could the audience give a round of applause to the judges for giving their time freely to all of these startups and giving their advice? We appreciate you, and we thank you for all, for coming. But I'm going to jump over into it's the third room in the session area. It just says judges discussion. So for those of you who can meet me over there, I will see you over there in 30 seconds. And for those who can't, I totally understand, and I still appreciate you. But thank you all. I hope to see you.
Anyway, good session.
Nice meeting you all.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.